Text, Groundwater Sustainability Plan Initial Notification Public Webinar.
Reporting system and providing the ability to ask questions on this new system. So I'm joined today in the room here with Mark Nordberg, Mehdi, Trevor Joseph, Lauren Hirsch, Scott Morgan, and then the lead developer on our consulting team, Charlie Lay.
Text, Webinar Overview.
So today, what we'd like to cover is go over some webinar instructions, then talk about an overview of the GSP Initial Notification Requirements. We'll have a short Q&A after that to see if anyone has questions for clarification on the requirements for initial notification. Then we'll talk about the GSP initial notification process and the new tool we've developed, starting with a live demo of that system, and then talk about some groundwater sustainability agency and public resources related to that tool. And then we'll wrap up with a question and answer session on that topic of the new process for submitting initial notifications.
Text, Webinar Instructions.
So today we are recording the webinar, and it will be posted on our GSP initial notification website, which the link is shown on the slide. That website is currently available for viewing if you'd like to look at that.
Instructions for submitting questions. Skype or call-in only.
Instructions for submitting questions. The preferred approach, if you are logged into Skype, please use the chat function of the Skype window. If you don't see that right now on your screen, there is a small chat icon on the lower left of the Skype window. You can click on that and then type your questions into the dialog box. We'll be monitoring those questions as they're coming in, and we'll be queuing up the questions and responding to those during the Q&A session. The second option, if you've called in and are not viewing the Skype, you can email your questions to the DWR email address sgmps@water.ca.gov. Again, sgmps@water.ca.gov.
If you plan to call in only.
So if you are called in, again, our GSP initial notification website has the slides to this presentation, so if you'd like to follow along, and the recording of this webinar will be posted on that website shortly. And if you have any other technical difficulties, please email that DWR email, sgmps@water.ca.gov, and we'll try to assist you as best we can. So, an overview of the GSP initial notification requirements in the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and the Groundwater Sustainability Plan regulations.
GSP Initial Notification. GSAs are required to notify DWR in writing.
In the GSP initial notification process, GSAs are required to notify DWR in writing prior to initiating the development of a GSP. That is the regulation section 353.6. And the regulations have requirements to provide general information about the GSA's process for developing the GSP and how interested parties may contact the GSA and participate in the development and implementation of the GSP. We're seeing that we might not have the screen sharing, so hold on 1 second. We'll pause for some technical difficulties.
He pauses the presentation and a screen sharing view appears briefly before returning to the slideshow.
Okay, thank you for that. Sorry for the inconvenience. So once a GSP initial notification is accepted, per the regulations section 353.8, DWR is required to accept public comments on the proposed GSP. So, and we'll go into the details on how to provide comments on initial notifications in a live demo.
Related SGMA requirements.
Related Sustainable Groundwater Management Act requirements to this notification are GSAs are required to establish and maintain a list of interested persons in GSP development. That's Water Code Section 107.23.4. GSAs are required to provide a written statement to the legislative body of any city and or county within the GSP boundaries. That's Water Code Section 107.27.8. And also in that Water Code Section 107.27.8, there's another requirement that if the geographic area to be covered by the GSP includes a public water system regulated by the Public Utilities Commission, the GSA shall provide a written statement to the Commission. So an important point with the GSP initial notification is that it's meant to be give an understanding and notification of GSP development. It's meant to be flexible. So if right now your GSP planning efforts are to do multiple plans or one plan, and you decide a few months down the road that is going to change, this initial notification system is meant to be able to track those changes, and it's flexible. However, when the GSAs go to submit their official GSP to the department, that will set off another specific 60-day public comment period. So there is a difference between the initial notification process and the official GSP submission to the department.
Questions and answers on GSP and requirements.
With that, we'll pause and ask if anyone has any questions for clarification on the GSP initial notification requirements and what we've covered so far. So we'll pause here for a few minutes. And again, the two options to submit questions are, if you're logged into Skype, use the chat function in Skype. There's an icon on the lower left of the screen, and you can type your question in there, or you can email your question to sgmps@water.ca.gov.
Is there a public-facing repository of the GSPs?
So we'll wait here just a few more minutes, and we will have another question and answer, longer question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Okay, all right. So we'll continue on. So now an overview of the GSP initial notification process. Before we go to the new process, we have received a number of existing initial notifications, those are currently on our DWR initial notification website. We received 36 notifications. Those have been submitted to us over the last year, from the first one back in December of 2016 till just a few days ago. Those notifications represent 20 basins or subbasins and 31 GSAs. We have moved those existing GSP notifications over to the new system, and DWR staff will be contacting the GSAs to help with that transfer process into the new system.
A map of California with some areas in blue.
And this here just shows a map of where those existing notifications, the basins that they've been submitted for.
sgma.water.ca.gov/portal.
So now moving to the new process. DWR's Sigma portal is the clearinghouse for all Sigma-related information that is submitted to the department. It's where GSAs and local agencies go to submit their information. Many of you are probably familiar with this Sigma portal, as this was the place where all the Groundwater Sustainability Agency information was submitted, alternative plans, adjudicated basins, and basin boundary modifications. So this is where we are storing all of our reporting tools. This site is live right now with the new GSP initial notification process. So if you'd like to go on to the Sigma portal and look at the GSP initial notification module, it is live now.
New GSP initial notification system. A screenshot of the SGMA Portal webpage.
So that new module is, if you click on the icon shown there in the red box of the GSP submittal icon, as this is the first step for GSP submittal. There are two major components. The first is tools that allow public access. This does not require a login, such as a table of all submitted GSP initial notifications, a map of the submitted GSP initial notifications, and this is where the public can provide comments on submitted initial notifications. The second component is the GSA tools. This is where GSAs are required to log in and submit their GSP initial notifications. So from today moving forward, we are requiring that GSAs submit their initial notifications using this tool. And there's some additional information on the lower part of that page to give some background information and contact information if you have questions. And we'll talk more about contacts, DWR contacts, to assist with this transition at the end of the slide presentation. So I'll quickly highlight the public access tools that are available.
A table beside a map.
As I mentioned, this is where a table of submitted GSP initial notifications will be housed and a map of those notifications.
Public comments on GSP notifications.
So a quick workflow, and then we'll go into a live demo of how to comment on a submitted notification, is opening up the list of GSP notifications, selecting the GSP notification you'd like to provide a comment on, filling out the comment form, and then submitting that comment form. So now we'll go to the live site.
Switches to a web browser.
So again, this is the Sigma portal.
Clicks GSP submittal second from left in the middle.
Click on GSP submittal icon.
The GSP reporting system page.
And here is the site with the view and comment on submitted initial notifications.
Under public access, two buttons.
There's also here to comment on submitted initial notifications and instructions that pulls up a short PDF document providing instructions on how to comment as well.
A list of all submitted GSP notifications with comment buttons beside each one.
So if you go to the list of initial notifications, here are all the initial notifications that have been submitted so far. As I mentioned, we've transferred the existing notifications we've received into the system. A quick note, you can select or you can sort the notifications by basin, basin number, GSA name, date submitted, and also you can view the list by GSAs or by basin. So if you're interested in the basin that you how many GSP initial notifications are in your basin, you can view it that way. The column to the right is where you would go to select the add comment.
Blue button at the top.
So you click add comment in the blue box here.
A blank form appears.
And it opens up a dialog box where you type in your name and some other information. There's the ability to update attachments if needed, and then you hit submit. And then once you hit submit, that comment will be associated with the particular initial notification. And we'll talk about some of the notification tools we've built in where email notifications will go out when public comments are submitted.
Clicks to a map of the state.
So I'd just quickly like to show another part of the public access portion of the tool is the web map. This is just a view on a map of the submitted initial notifications that were in that list page, where you can click on an individual basin and get more information on that notification.
Switches back to the presentation.
Okay, we'll go back to the slide show.
GSA access is highlighted on the SGMA portal page.
So now the GSA access portion. There is a requirement to be a GSA. So GSAs will use their existing login information that they've developed as part of the GSA submission. So they'll use that to log in to get to the site.
Text, submit a GSP initial notification.
And the workflow here that I'll demonstrate on the live site is GSA logs in, they enter the basin that they'd like to submit the initial notification in, they fill out the form, they can save or edit that and come back to it if needed, and then hit submit.
Returns to web browser.
So now I'll go back to the live site.
Logs in at the top right.
I'll log in. So this is me logging in as if I was a GSA.
A page titled My GSP Initial Notifications.
It'll bring you to a screen that, if this is your first time putting an initial notification in, you have to click the blue button here, Create New Initial Notification.
Type YOLO in the form field for basin.
You type in the basin that you want to submit a notification for. So in this case, we'll use our neighborhood basin here. Click Create GSP Initial Notification. There's a confirmation box.
A form with questions with radio buttons and a place to upload files.
So here is the form. It's a pretty short, simple form to fill out. And there's two major scenarios here. One is, and it depends on the number of GSPs planned for the basin. And that's the first question, is how many GSPs are planned for the basin? We have some additional information here off to the side. If you highlight the question mark, it tells you information from the Sigma statute on the various options you have to develop GSPs, one or multiple. So if you click a single GSP for the entire basin, then the second question is selecting the GSA or GSAs that will develop the GSP. So right now, in this case, there are two GSAs in the YOLO subbasin. This information is being pulled directly from the GSA tool, so it'll be up to date and live. So it'll reflect any changes that occur in the GSA system. So that way we can make sure everything is coordinated between this tool and the GSA formation tool.
Selects both GSA options.
You would click the GSAs that you want to participate, that are participating in this GSP process. There is a question 2A, if one or more GSAs have identified a representative to submit an initial notification on their behalf, that identified representative should attach evidence of that delegation. So this is in the case where one individual might fill out this form online for 3 or more or however many GSAs. This is an opportunity to provide information on how that individual has been identified as representing those other GSAs. And so there's a function to type in information or upload. You can drag and drop files into this dialog box here, or you can click and go to a box to find the attachment that you'd like.
Scrolls down to question 3. A tooltip appears beside it.
Option or question. Question 3 is select or add the plan manager for the GSP. Again, this tooltip here, the question mark, gives some more context on what is a plan manager. And again, the individuals that show up in this section are pulled directly from the GSA tool from the point of contact list. So it is up to date with all the point of contacts from the GSA tool. So if you select an individual, that individual from the GSA is going to be your plan manager. You can select them here. If you haven't determined that yet, there's an option to say not yet determined. And then the last option is you can add a new plan manager by filling in information in this dialog box if that is needed.
Clicks cancel. Scrolls down.
Question 4, another required question, is getting back to the GSP initial notification requirements, where it says please provide general information about the agency's process for developing the GSP. including the manner in which interested parties may contact the agency and participate in the development and implementation of the GSP. And it talks about the Sigma water code sections that are related there. And if you click on those links, it gives you to the statute that talks about those. Again, you can type in information here of how general information about the agency's process for developing the GSP can be accessed, or you can provide an attachment if needed. The final question is, please provide links to the agency's website where relevant information regarding the GSP is posted or will be posted. So this is where we're looking for a website to where all of the GSP information is stored. This is also a requirement of in the GSP regulations for initial notification. So that's it for the questions. You can hit save if you want to come back and finish it later, or you can hit submit. So we'll quickly go through the second option, and then we'll go into what happens when you click submit. So if in your basin you're going to develop multiple GSPs that cover the entire basin, you click on that, and that gives a slightly different list of questions.
A notice appears.
First, there's just a notice reminding folks of the GSP regulation section 357.4 that a coordination agreement is required if multiple GSPs are planned for the basin or will be submitted to the basin.
A drop-down under question 1A with the options 1 to 10 are unknown.
So an optional question 1A is select the number of GSPs planned for the basin. So you could come in here and put the number of GSPs that are planned for the basin. Or you can say unknown if you don't know that number right now. Related to multiple GSPs in a basin, I mentioned a coordination agreement is ultimately required upon submission of the plans.
Question 1B.
There is an option to add a coordination agreement if it has been adopted already. So if that's the case, you already have an adopted coordination agreement. And again, there's more information on that at the tooltip here.
Question 1BI.
You can upload. First, identify the point of contact for the basin that's been identified in the coordination agreement, and that's one of the requirements of a coordination agreement.
Question 1B2.
And you can upload that coordination agreement here. In many cases, in early GSP development process, a coordination agreement has not been finalized, and so that's where, if you don't have a coordination agreement finalized yet, you click no. And there's an option to describe the status or efforts to develop the coordination agreement for the basin. Again, this is an optional dialogue or question here. And then there's the ability to upload information about that efforts to develop the coordination agreement.
Question 2. Select GSAs that will develop the GSPs.
Question 2 is very similar to the first scenario that we went through, where you select the GSAs you would like that would be part of the initial notification. Again, if one individual or representative is submitting on behalf of others, there's the ability to upload information of how they were delegated to do that.
2B provides a map to select a region.
With multiple GSPs, there's the option of where to submit a GSP boundary. So the GSP area boundary. There's two options here. This is a GIS shapefile. So we've provided an option where you can use, based on which GSAs you've selected above in question 2, you can use the already identified GSA area shapefiles that have been submitted to the GSA system. So we know that there was a lot of effort to fine-tune those GSA boundaries, and so we thought that it would be good if we can use those existing GIS files to make sure that we're using the latest and greatest information. If that is not the case, where you want to use the GSA GIS shapefiles,
2BI.
you can upload your GSP plan boundary GIS shapefile here and provide an explanation. So again, this is click on the upload, or you can drag the shapefiles into this dialog box. Question 3 is similar to where you select or add the plan manager. Again, if it hasn't been determined yet, and a coordination agreement has not been adopted, you can say not yet determined or add a new plan manager in the dialog box here. And then questions 4 and 5 are identical. It's providing the general information about the process for developing a GSP and the website.
Email notification matrix.
So once you hit submit, then it sends out an email to first off, when you create your initial notification, you start the process by picking that basin, that first screen that we showed. You'll get an email, and DWR will get an email to see that there's initial notification process starting. Then once you submit the notification, the person who created the notification, the identified plan manager, all the GSAs that were selected, their points of contacts will be emailed, as well as DWR regional staff and DWR HQ here in Sacramento. There is the option to withdraw an initial notification, and if that's the case, the same group that I just mentioned will get notified of a withdrawal of the initial notification. And then anytime a public comment is submitted for a notification, the creator or the person who submitted the public comment gets notified, and the GSP plan manager, GSA points of contacts, and DWR staff will get notified.
Back on the top of the web page.
One thing I'd like to show is if there is a withdrawn initial notification, we do have a list. So if you hover over the menu bar for GSP, you can look at My GSP Initial Notifications, all notifications that have been submitted, all notifications that have been withdrawn, and the map viewer. So now back to the slides.
Recover password.
So we also felt it would be good to provide an opportunity. Some of the more frequently asked questions about the portal is, what is my username, or how to recover a password. So we wanted to include those here in this webinar. To recover a password, you click on the link that I'll show in a second, that you forgot your password, enter your email, recover it, and then you can create a new password. Also, an important point is that user ID to log into the Sigma portal is your email address in all lowercase font. And so that is a common question that we receive, and wanted to bring that to all of your attention.
On the portal beneath GSA Access.
Where is that information? It's on the GSP reporting system landing page. Off to the right, there's a series of questions and links to recover passwords, to create a new account if needed. And there's also resources such as a printable template, the GSP initial notification fact sheet or FAQ, and then a link to our DWR initial notification homepage. And I'll show those in a second.
Text, GSP initial notification resources.
So now on to those resources that are outside or that will be used for this process. As I mentioned, we have our GSP notification webpage, and on that webpage is our FAQ that's posted there with a lot more detail on this process and related questions to this process. I'll show you that webpage. So if you're on our homepage, DWR Sustainable Groundwater Management homepage, and you scroll down on the right-hand side, It's under the Groundwater Sustainability Plan Regulations, Initial Notifications. The presentation that we're sharing today is posted here. The FAQ document that the team has developed is here as well, with some background information, a link to the Sigma portal, related Sigma notification requirements, and then contact information. And this is where we've worked with our region office Sigma teams, and these are the points of contacts. If you have questions on the initial notification process, you can click on the links here, and it'll provide an email address to our Sigma team, and they can answer questions. Another view of the fact sheet, or the FAQ here, and then a table of the already submitted initial notifications is here as well.
DWR Contacts for GSP Initial Notification. A map of regional office contacts in California.
So those contacts that I just mentioned, the primary contact for Sacramento is Monica Reese, who is on our Sigma team here in Sacramento. And then the regional offices, it's Bill Ehorn in the Northern Region Office, Paul Wells in North Central Region Office, Amanda Peisch in South Central Regional Office, and Brian Moniz in our Southern Region Office. And then I also wanted to highlight some additional resources related to Sigma, our DWR Sigma webpage, homepage. If you haven't already subscribed, we have a DWR Sustainable Groundwater Management Program email listserv where we send out important Sigma related information. And then we also have a data tools and reports webpage and other assistance web pages where you can provide or see technical and planning assistance that we're currently providing for GSP development.
Q&A on GSPIN process.
So with that, we'll open it up to questions on the GSP initial notification process. Thank you all for attending and tuning in, and now we'll get to some questions.
Okay, this is Mark Nordberg, and I think most of the questions that have come in so far I've been answering as they've come in. They've been pretty straightforward, but since it is question time, I can read the one that just came in. It looks like it's from the GSP regulation, section 353.8. Let me flip to it now. And the question is, the public comment period will be no less than 60 days. Will DWR close the comment functions on notifications at day 61, or will it be left open indefinitely? Subsection F. The language leaves it open for DWR to respond to public comments. Will DWR respond, and under what circumstances could that occur?
All right, thank you for that question. So as the regulation is written, there is no 60-day time frame on comments on the initial notification. So that comment period will remain open during the initial notification process. As I mentioned, once an official GSP initial notification, an official GSP is submitted, then that initiates the official 60-day public comment period on that adopted GSP. As far as DWR responding to comments, that's something that, as it states in the regulation, we're not required to. We will, as I mentioned, get notified of those comments when they're submitted on this tool.
You can type a question anytime during the webinar. Click the question icon at the bottom left.
Okay. Any other questions? And again, I can remind folks on how to submit questions. Option 1 on Skype is use the chat function on Skype. And then if you're a call-in only, please email sgmps@water.ca.gov.
And this is Mark. I'll type it on the conversation log. But also with the FAQ document that was provided as part of this effort, look at the response for FAQ number 8 with respect to comments, please.
Derek Williams. Are GSAs in a basin that are not part of the GSP noticed?
Looks like we have a new question that came in.
Oh, the next, yeah, I gotta talk in here. The next question, are GSAs in a basin that are not part of the GSP noticed? Stephen, I'm gonna leave that one to you.
Okay, thanks for that question. So through this initial notification system, they're not noticed, although the system itself is open through the public access components that I talked about, where anyone can check and see which initial notifications have been submitted in their basin. This also relates to the requirement of an interested persons list for the GSA. So if you are interested in those GSA's activities in your basin, you could get on their interested persons list and get information that way.
In which point in time, GSAs are required to submit GSPIN as part of the process of preparing the GSP?
So there's a question submitted. In which point in time GSAs are required to submit GSP initial notifications as part of the process of preparing the GSP? And I would look at the language in section 353.6A of the GSP regulations. And it says each GSA shall notify the department in writing prior to initiating development of a plan. So before you get started with plan development, an initial notification should be submitted.
Okay, a few more questions are coming in.
So this was, yeah, Stephen can answer this one. It's from Ken. It's with respect to the initial notifications that have already been submitted to the department. Are those GSAs required to go back in and re-upload those?
So we have transferred those existing notifications into this new tool, and we will be reaching out. We'll be working between our headquarters staff here in Sacramento and our region office staff, and we'll be reaching out to those GSAs to help them with that transition process. So there might be a few additional items to enter into the form that might be necessary.
Okay, and the most recent comment that came in, what is a GSA supposed to do with the public comments? Is there a legal obligation to address them someplace? And I will turn that one over to our attorney.
Okay, this is Scott Morgan. The value of the GSAs getting the copy of the comments is just so they know what the department has been informed about. There's nothing, we don't specifically require that they respond, but certainly if the comments raise substantive issues that we will want more information about, then we will pass that along. But otherwise, it's just so they know what information is coming in and they have an opportunity to reply or provide additional information if they wish.
There was also one question. Someone indicated that you're not getting any video. Oddly enough, neither am I on my computer. Maybe it has something to do with the operating system. But this is being recorded, so if you are not getting video right now, it is being recorded. It'll get posted on our Sigma website, and you can watch it again.
And also, we do have the presentation slides available on our GSP notification website at the top of the page. Looks like we have a question.
Yeah, I was about to type it in, but there's a question: how long do we need to wait to develop the GSP plan once GSP initial notifications have been submitted? There's really no time frame.
Yeah.
Prior to starting the development of the plan, per the regulations, you're supposed to provide the initial notification. So there really isn't a time frame element associated with it. Just do the initial notification do the initial notification first. That's the opportunity to let folks know how they can participate. And then it's really up to you how to move forward in the time that you're given.
DWR NCRD. We also lost video feed and had to restart the Skype meeting.
Okay, looks like there's more questions about folks losing video feed. So again, hopefully that's not happening across the board, and we'll do what we can.
Can the GSP be submitted on January 31st, 2020?
See, there's another question. Can the GSP be submitted on January 31st, 2020, which is the GSP deadline for GSPs and critically overdrafted basins, and start the 60-day comment period then, or does the 60-day comment period have to be completed before then? Those are, I think there's kind of a couple answers within that question. I mean, I'll take the first step. Stephen, if you want to actually find the regulatory section that addresses this, once the GSP is submitted to the department through the Sigma portal, that opens up the comment period related to that adopted and submitted GSP. But prior to adopting the GSP and prior to the submission of that GSP, there is a statutory requirement for making it available to the public for review. And I know specifically the language relates to, I think, cities and counties. Again, Stephen's looking for the statutory language, so I don't necessarily want to paraphrase it, but it has to do with 90 days prior to the adoption or 90 days prior to the submission. There's a time element where cities and counties can request consultation.
Yeah, that statutory requirement that Mark is mentioning is Water Code Section 10728.4, the adoption or amendment of plan procedures. As far as the 60-day public comment period for the official plan submission, that is Water Code Section 10733.4, subsection C, where it states, upon receipt of a GSP, the department shall post the plan on the department's website and provide 60 days for persons to submit comments to the department about the plan. Okay. So we'll wait here a little bit longer to see if there's any more questions that come in. And we'll check on our email address. Anything? Looks like we just got a question from our email. Okay, it looks like that one could be answered on email.
Want someone to link.
Okay. All right. We'll wait a few more minutes for any other questions. And again, how to provide questions on Skype, use the chat function on the lower left part of the Skype screen. And then you could email it to sgmps@water.ca.gov. We'll wait a few more minutes.
Returns to DWR Contacts slide. DWR Sacramento, Monica Race, monica.race@water.ca.gov.
So in the meantime, I'm going to put the slide back up to our DWR contacts for initial notification if you're interested. Again, we have contacts in Sacramento, Monica Reese, and our DWR regional office contacts are there on the screen, depending on which DWR region you're in.
water.ca.gov/groundwater/sgm/index.cfm.
Oh, I'll answer this one. There's a question submitted by, it looks like, State Water Board staff. Big picture, What is supposed to happen after the notification and plans are submitted? Well, after the notification is submitted, you can start working on development of your GSP. I would highly recommend you get that GSP submitted by the statutory deadline. After the GSP is submitted to the department has 2 years to review that GSP and get back a determination of adequacy.
Subscribe to DWR's GMP email list. water.ca.gov/groundwater/sgm/subscribe.cfm.
Okay, we'll wait a few more minutes for any other questions that come in.
DWR Data, Tools, and Reports webpage. water.ca.gov/groundwater/map_app/index.cfm. Back on Q&A, Brewster Bill at DWR. FYI. Using parenthesis will sometimes automatically create an emoji. For example, B surrounded by parenthesis is B.
I think the substantive comments have ended.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, looks like there are no other questions. So last call for questions and we'll wrap up.
Craig Moyle, thank you,
Okay.
folks.
So with that, it will conclude the webinar here. We would like to thank all of you for calling in, and as you're going through and using this new system, please feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. And also, we will be reaching out to those 37 or 36 entities that have already submitted initial notifications that have been transferred into this new process.
Mark Nordberg. Any last questions?
And then finally, I would recommend that if you are looking for planning or technical assistance support, there's a number of resources available on our Sustainable Groundwater Management homepage, and there's some other information there on how DWR is working with GSAs across the state, both at our Sigma headquarters office here in Sacramento and the regional offices as well. And again, this recording will be posted on our GSP notification webpage shortly. All right, thank you very much, everyone.
He closes the presentation and returns to the screen sharing view. Then ends the screen share.